This is one of the most famous horror novels of all time, The Shining by Stephen King. But what did I think of it? It's my first time reading it. I'm a slow reader and a new Stephen King fan. So here it is. Here's my spoiler-free quick review of The Shining by Stephen King. Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Charlene and this is my little YouTube channel where I talk mainly about books but also with a little bit of travel and lifestyle as well. And today I'm super excited to be talking to you about The Shining by Stephen King. So as I mentioned, this is my first time ever reading The Shining by Stephen King, and if you haven't caught any of my other videos before, I am a slow reader and a relatively new Stephen King reader. I only read my first Stephen King book, I can't remember if it was the end of last year or the beginning of this year, but since then I've absolutely loved Stephen King and I've read quite a few of his books already. So I wanted to get round to The Shining because I know it's such a classic. If you tell most people you're reading a Stephen King book, chances are they'll think of The Shining. And I also know this is a really classic horror which I've never read before, so I really wanted to get around to it. I finally read it and I'll be going through my thoughts, my feelings and a quick spoiler-free review in this video. So before I get going on giving you my quick spoiler-free review and my thoughts and feelings about this book, I just wanted to give you a few little details about it. So this is The Shining by Stephen King. It's a classic horror novel written in 1977 by Stephen King. It's his third published novel, and I also thought it'd be useful to tell you the average rating for this on Goodreads because I think that gives us quite a good guide as to the popularity of the book and how people feel about it and things like that. So the average rating for The Shining is 4.28 stars on Goodreads, which is very, very high. And I also just wanted to read you the blurb. Danny is only 5 years old, but in the words of old Mr. Halloran, he is a shiner, aglow with psychotic voltage. When his father becomes caretaker of the Overlook Hotel, Danny's visions grow out of control. But as winter closes in and the blizzards cut them off, the empty hotel seems to develop a life of its own. Why are masked guests riding in the elevator, and who is the lady in room 217? Somewhere, somehow, there is an evil force in the hotel, and that too is beginning to shine. So this is a well-loved book and I can't believe that I've only just got around to reading it myself. But I just wanted to shout out a few things that I've read about this on Goodreads, just a few of the comments left. Literally the top 3 comments, the first ones that I come across. The first one says, one of the best ghost stories of our time. The next says, words can't express how much this story means to me. And the next one says, I don't even know what to say that hasn't already been said about this, but let me give it a shot. God damn, this is King at his best. So those 3 comments that just happen to be at the top of the pile there show you how loved this book is. And I'm really excited to talk you through a very quick spoiler-free review of The Shining, and then I will of course give you my thoughts and feelings and my rating of the book as well. So there you go. I've given you a few details about the book and I'm now going to give you an overview of the story. I've obviously read the blurb and that gives us some really good information, but I just wanted to expand on that slightly without giving too much away. As always, what I aim to do in these quick book reviews is to be spoiler free, so to give you enough information for you to decide whether or not to read this book without giving too much away. So where do I start? Firstly, this book is long. Okay, this is 497 pages, so that is one of the reasons that I hadn't yet picked it up, because it was slightly intimidating to me as a slow reader and as a new Stephen King fan. I absolutely love Stephen King's writing, but one thing that I have found is that sometimes, not his fault, mine entirely, what I can do is get lost in the amount of detail that Stephen King writes in his books. But I think that isn't a flaw of his writing, that's a fault of my own as a slow reader, just because it takes me so long to get through. So I was really apprehensive going into this because I know how much it's loved, I know how hyped up it is, and I'd never read it, I've never even seen the film or anything, so I was really, really excited to get into this story. When I read that blurb, that made me even more excited. As a Disney fan, it gave me those kind of images and impressions of the Tower of Terror ride that's in Hollywood studios, and it also made me think of like the Twilight Zone of Terror and all of that. So I was very excited to get into this story. So what is the story about? As the blurb explains, there is a family of three. There is Jack, who is the father, Danny, who is the son, the 5-year-old son, and Wendy, who is Jack's wife. And Jack is down and out for reasons that I won't explain because I don't want to give too much away. But Jack is down and out on his luck. He's had quite a few bad things happen to him, and he's at a stage where he's kind of desperate for a job. He's finding it really, really difficult to hold down and maintain a job. And something quite major has happened to him in his past career that means that he's really struggling to get a job. So one of his friends kind of takes a little bit of pity on him and suggests that he takes up this job as the winter caretaker at the Overlook Hotel. So he's very interested in it because basically all he's trying to do is keep it together for his family. He just needs money and he doesn't really care in what way that's coming in. He just wants a job. And also, their relationship between Jack and Wendy, his wife, has been a little bit rocky. So he just thinks, I just need something new. I need a fresh start. The whole family needs this. So he absolutely goes for this job at the Overlook Hotel. When they get to the Overlook Hotel, they realise that this job is the winter caretaker, meaning that this hotel closes down for the winter months. And I think it's quite a few months. It's 4, possibly even 5 or 6, but the hotel closes down for a few months. All of the guests, they go, they leave, the hotel is shut, all of the staff leave, and they abandon this hotel for the winter months. So where the hotel is situated it's like in this area that is really, really prone to bad weather, particularly in the winter. So it's just not worth it staying open. But they need somebody there to make sure everything's ticking by and the boiler's taken care of. And it's luxurious but old and a little bit rickety, and there are things that need looking after while there's no guests and no staff. So enter Jack, Danny and Wendy. They move into the hotel for the winter season so that Jack can become the winter caretaker. He's shown all the little quirks of the hotel, the things like the boiler needs draining twice a day and the pressure or whatever it is. The shutters need redoing, the tiles on the roof need redoing, and what areas of the hotel need a little bit more love than others. And he's shown around like where the food is kept and all of that. Basically, this hotel is going to be their home for the next 3 months. However, because all of the guests and all of the staff have left, it is literally just the 3 of them. The hotel is completely locked and closed down otherwise. It's in the middle of a wintry snowstorm and they have very little communication with the outside world. Because this is set in like the 70s, it's very much like they can only get in touch with the outside world through phone. So if the phone line goes down, they're completely on their own. So already you're thinking, okay, if anything goes wrong here, this is not the best situation ever. But that's basically where things start to get super interesting. As the blurb also suggested, throughout the rest of their time there, it seems like the hotel is coming to life and everybody and every guest and everything that's ever happened there is slowly coming to life as well. The book is called The Shining, which I never really understood the relevance of what that meant, especially in relation to the story itself. But as it suggests on the blurb, The Shining is basically what it calls when somebody has that intuition or that sixth sense, or when they're kind of dialed into otherworldly supernatural things. You know, people who like class themselves as mediums and things like that. That is The Shining. So basically Danny, the 5-year-old son, has The Shining. Very, very strong, very loud. And being in this hotel environment where it's got decades of history, everything that could ever have happened in a hotel has happened here. It's got really shady past, some really shady characters, some very suspicious things has happened there. And the hotel, the longer they're there, the hotel basically seeps into themselves, especially into Danny and Jack, and just starts to live inside of them, and they can feel all of these entities around them. They start to have a sense of all of the bad things that's ever happened in the hotel, and it's almost like the hotel is taking control of them. The hotel is its own entity. So that's really as much as I want to tell you about the story without giving too much away. But I do just want to say, It's so interesting. All of the things that happen in this hotel, one of the concepts that I love the most, and it does mention it in the book, is that everything that's ever happened at the hotel is happening at the same time. So every single night, or whenever the shining becomes particularly strong, when the hotel starts coming to life, something that happened in 1920 and something that happened in 1960 and something that happened in the 1800s or even before then, everything is happening at exactly the same time. So you're seeing these layers of story, these layers of history, these different characters and different scenarios that have happened, and the hotel basically is alive, and everything that's ever happened in it is all happening at once. So obviously you can kind of start to imagine from what I've explained there that with the way things are going and the way that the hotel is coming more and more to life and the shining is getting stronger, it's just not going to end well. Basically, it starts to get really intense. The hotel is completely throwing everything at these people, and it's trying to basically to keep them. It's trying to get them to stay, but in a way that's really not cool and really scary. And that is one thing I will say about this book. If you're not a fan of like jump scares or horror or things like that, then maybe this isn't for you. I absolutely love a thriller, and I love a horror, and I love just the vibes that this gives off. I absolutely loved it. I found it so interesting, that concept of the hotel being an alive thing and everything that's ever happened there still keeps happening. Because when you think of staying at hotels, they've got a lot of history, and like you're just checking into your room for however long, but actually there's been loads of people there before you and loads of things that have happened in every single hotel, especially one as old as the Overlook with as much history as it's got. So that really kind of like put into my mind a bit like, oh God, I don't want to stay at any old hotels anymore or anything like that. But it was such an interesting supernatural story and something that I completely didn't expect. I've never watched The Shining film and I've never read The Shining book. But what I had always thought of happening was that, we've all seen those clips of like, here's Johnny and all of that. So all I thought that happened was basically that there was a guy, Jack, the dad, who basically loses his mind for one reason or another and goes on some kind of murderous rampage. But that is kind of what happens, but not really. There is so much more to the story. Like, I didn't know that there was so much of a supernatural element, and it's just, I found that really interesting. I really wasn't expecting it, and I found it really added an extra layer for me of interest to the story. I found it really interesting. One thing that I did also find very interesting is that famous line, "Here's Johnny." That doesn't actually happen in the book at all. That was Jack Nicholson completely ad-libbing in the film and just being in character and just adding that in the spur of the moment. So I was looking out for that line, but it obviously doesn't happen in the book. So yes, that is as much as I want to tell you about the story without giving you too much. As far as characters, I also don't want to give you too much information there neither, because I don't want to start to give too much away. There's obviously the core three, which is Jack, Wendy and Danny. So their father, wife and son. Jack has got a very complicated past. He's dealing with addiction issues. He's dealing with unemployment. He's a struggling writer, which we all know Stephen King loves to write about. And he's just down and out, and he's on hard times. He's trying his best to keep his family together, but luck has not been on his side, and he hasn't been on his own side really neither. He's not making situations any easier for himself. Then you've got Wendy, who is Jack's wife and Danny's mother, and she is just a lovely, caring, aware that she's got issues in her family, but just trying to keep it all together. She's a great mom, and she's trying to shelter Danny from all of the bad things that have happened in their marriage, and she's trying to keep Danny, the son, as safe and as happy as he can be. And then you've got Danny, the son, who is 5 years old, and he is a very innocent character, but he is so very troubled. He has the shining, one of the most strongest that anybody's ever experienced. And basically this means that he's constantly in tune with everything. Like, can you imagine that? How overwhelming that would be? He can hear his parents' thoughts. He knows when bad things are happening. He knows when his dad is doing something he shouldn't be. He knows when his parents are thinking about divorce and things like that. So you can imagine that in a situation like the Overlook Hotel with those years and years of history, he's picking up on anything and everything. and it really, really starts to overtake and overwhelm him. He's seeing every awful thing that's ever happened there, and he's living it and he's feeling it and experiencing it. Other than those three characters, you've got the hotel manager, sorry, who is a bit of a job's worth, and you've got Mr. Halloran, who is the hotel chef, who also has the shining. So he detects it in Danny as soon as he meets him before he leaves for the season, and he knows, okay, this boy's going to struggle here because this hotel, I struggle and I don't have the shining as strongly as Danny. So he has the shining as well. And then there are a few other characters, that exist within the realms of the hotel. I won't give you any more information about the characters than that because I really don't want to give too much away about the experiences that happen in the hotel and what happens in the end. So I've gone over the plot briefly and the characters as well, and I'll just go over my experience of reading this book. As I said, I've wanted to read The Shining for a really long time, but I felt really intimidated by it and really overwhelmed by it because it's such a long book, because I'm a slow reader, and because this book is so hyped and so loved. So, there's that little amount of pressure that like, oh God, I hope that I really enjoy it. I hope that it's for me. I hope that I do it justice as I'm reading it, especially as a slow reader and all of that. But eventually I got to it and I did what I love doing with Stephen King books. And that's that I read it at the same time as listening to it on Audible, which I have absolutely loved doing. As a slow reader, I feel like that gets me into the story so much more. It helps me get through it a little bit quicker because I can listen to the story as I'm getting ready and throughout the day where I've got a spare minute and things like that. And I really loved doing that. The person that reads the story is absolutely insane, absolutely incredible. And you can just feel, especially when there's those really highly tense moments of scary things happening in the hotel, when it's voiced as well and you can listen to it and feel that aggression and everything, it really, really brings the story more to life. So I did that to get through it, and I think it's took me maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks to get through, which as a slow reader I was very impressed with, but that's only because of listening to it on Audible. That's how I was able to get through it that quickly. I really, really did end up loving reading the story. As I mentioned earlier, one of the things I loved the most was that it gave me those haunted house, kind of haunted hotel vibes, like Twilight Zone of Terror, whatever that's called. What is it called? Oh my God, people are going to be shouting at the screen, I'm sure. But Twilight, basically, Twilight Zone of Terror. And also the ride at Disney's Hollywood Studios, the Tower of Terror. I absolutely loved that, and I love the theming and all of that. So this book very much gave me those kind of vibes. I really enjoyed the added supernatural element to it that I wasn't aware of, and I really enjoyed watching the slow progression of the story and the characters. As always with a Stephen King book, the characters are so spot on, like they're so perfectly developed. I really feel like I know every single fibre of every single character, especially the core three characters. I feel like I know them inside out. I know how their brains work. I know everything about them. And I really, really appreciate and admire that about Stephen King's writing. He makes me feel like I can really picture everything so clearly in my mind, the story and the characters. So I loved all of that. There is one thing that I did slightly struggle with, and I'm pretty sure this is just a me issue because I haven't seen it anywhere else in anybody's comments about the book or anything like that. One thing that I did struggle with was Jack, the main character, has a lot of mental demons to battle, and as he's at the hotel, that keeps getting more and more, and it keeps getting worse for him. So I could understand it more when I was listening to the book, but when I was reading it, I got a little bit lost at times because he starts off on, talking about one thing, but then his mind, because it's being all over the place, it splits and it goes down all these different avenues, and you start over here about a subject and you end up over here in like some random memory or some advert that he's seen once, or not even anything, just his mind going into overdrive and going crazy. And sometimes I really struggled to follow what was actually happening because of that. However, like I said, the Audible audiobook really, really did help with that, because I could the voice actor voiced when it was like something normal and something not. So I could really, really understand it more. But that was something that did throw me a little bit. Other than that, I've got really no complaints about the book whatsoever. It was just, for me, My favourite Stephen King books so far have been Misery, 11/22/63, and Billy Summers. And also, I really enjoyed reading Never Flinch recently as well. Yeah, so those are the ones that have been my favourites so far. I loved The Shining, but I don't think for me it's quite as high as those other books that I've enjoyed. I think that, I don't know, maybe I lost my way a little bit more with The Shining than with those other books. So for me, I've ended up scoring The Shining a 4 out of 5, which is still very high. This is how my rating system works. So 1, rubbish, hated it, will never read it, never recommend it. 2, no, I didn't really like it, it wasn't good. 3, average. 4, very good. 5, absolute perfection. There's nothing I change about it. So for me, this is a 4 and this is very good. I'm going to think about this story for a long time, I'm sure. And I'm really, really excited, now I've read it, to watch the film as well. Like, I really want to get round to watching the film. I do understand through just looking at a few comments there that Stephen King wasn't overly happy with the film adaptation, so I'm sure it's going to be quite different to the book and to what I've pictured in my head. I think that there was issues with the portrayal of the character Jack or something like that, or maybe of the hotel itself. But I still really, really, really want to watch it because I really enjoyed the book, and I also would be really curious to see how somebody else interpreted it into a film. So I'll be doing that shortly, and yeah, I can't wait to watch it. This is obviously a very, very well-loved book, and I know I'm so late to reading it here. So if any of you have read The Shining, please, please let me know in the comments what you thought. What was your rating of this book? Did you think it was 5 out of 5, or did you agree with me? It was 4 out of 5, or what did you think of it? Try not to give too much away for the people that haven't read or watched it. If you've watched the film, did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy the book more? Did you enjoy the film more? What did you think? I'd be super, super interested to know. And also, do just let me know if you have any recommendations or suggestions or comments for me in general. I absolutely love talking to you guys, and I would love, love, love to do that and to get into the comments with you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I feel like I've been an absolute whirlwind of blah, 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 like talking really quickly this video, but I'm just trying to get out like my enjoyment of the book and the crazy storyline, and it's, yeah, I just wanted to get all of my feelings out before I forgot anything. Thank you so much for watching this video. I would love you forever if you could like this video and subscribe to my little channel. I'm kind of on a Stephen King hype at the moment. This is my second Stephen King in a row that I've read, one of many that I've read this year. So I'm sure if you're a Stephen King fan, there'll be lots of Stephen King videos coming up for you. And yes, I would just love you forever if you'd subscribe to my little channel. Thank you so, so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye.